Mic check. Okay. I hope something's not with my computer and that these are, in fact, you can hear my voice. I'll try to be aware of my lips too, I guess. If I ever have that prejudice, it's because my mother, who tortured me, was deaf, and she would like, I'll talk about the teenage years, which are more readily available for memory. She would just be like if I had a facial expression she didn't like, that would, and she had been a meth head, remember, a violent, cokey, then meth head, alcoholic meth head, who then later mixed SSRIs with a bunch of wine. So she was those are the worst people. People on antidepressants who drink, you're the worst fucking people, okay? You are the worst fucking drug addicts in all of human history. People on SSRIs, you're the fucking worst. So yeah, if this was my face, like coming home, she'd freak out. Or if like, it was actually more like, hold on. So I'm like, what age is this impression coming from? Let's do 16. Or like, I'd come in the door like, this bitch. But yeah. So I like to do now like my war review live, because I do want to be more questioning. It was like a crutch to just be like, oh, this is what's going to happen next. But I was like, I had been silenced and then literally fucked and re-trafficked, drugged, attacked, abused, my life threatened by fucking everybody in my life these past just at minimum 6 years since I first started reporting this trafficking gang. And so excuse my overcompensation on my intelligence for defense and the inaccuracies that came with it. Not that many, but okay. Woo-hoo. What are they telling you about Russia, Ukraine today? What is that red and blue ripping you off telling you today? I hate that people got, I wonder when that happened. And that's why I wish more like 50-year-olds would have live YouTubes where they just rant. I did request somebody I left a comment on one of the smaller channels. And that's all I do, because that's the G thing to do right now. Get a small, intimate channel, have like a little chat group. And I was like, he was like, I'm bipolar. And I was like, oh my God, you should rant on YouTube. Brilliant. I wish more people with in like deep mindsets would rant on YouTube live. I appreciate it. I love a good rant. Oh, that's why I dated again. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to listen to this former. No, I wish I could say former. Because they all just cling on to it like it's their only identity or purpose in life. Special Forces rant. I'm just going to listen to this guy fucking go. Both of my exes, pieces of shit, and communists, not real Americans, terrorists onto me, and who knows who else, because they work in a group to take away Americans' rights. Watch out for Joseph Desjardins and Stephen Kinsella. No bueno. His last name started with the G, but he's very much attached to his Irish last name and did terrorist attacks under that last name. So, yeah. They think it's freedom of religion to take away like a woman's rights or to hold her as property. They think it's, no, bitch, that's slavery. You're the tyrant. And that's how I remember the last one, like Joseph Desjardins. He had to like, I could see him thinking about it, like, bitch, you're the like, can't you see that? You're the communist, you're the tyrant. Can't you? And I wanted him to be a real American because I wanted a kid with him. I wanted to get moving forward. just getting to what I really want to do, and the degree that I have to fucking get. Although I kind of realize I don't have to get that, because you could just do the work, submit it to a lab, and then if they like it, they'll hire you. So I'm actually not going to do that degree. You all can fucking suck it. And people are stealing, like Dan Crenshaw says. People are just stealing, and what anybody comes up with is just being stolen right now. So there's no fucking, it's unsafe actually to develop something great right now, because it will be stolen from you. It's just, people steal the virginity of children and technology. That's what we are. So back to the Russia-Ukraine war. Okay, so this was a part that was silenced that when I didn't do my mic. Yeah, so November 15th, Thursday last week, 100 missiles from Russia knocked out half of Ukraine's power grid. Oh, they were not bragging. So obviously the most impactful day of the war thus far, but because they've been intentionally in the mainstream news, both CNN and Fox, and quite frankly, at large, the political parties, the GOP and the DNC, because they have been intending to cause harm by fear-mongering, based on the propaganda they themselves invented to keep control. They were like, and I hope everybody kind of really saw that unfold when it was like, oh, we're at war with Russia. Like all the guys from the 80s, like, I'm going to watch Top Gun and, or sorry, Miracle. I don't know. I haven't seen that movie yet though. I did just watch Top Gun. Anyway though, so Miracle should be good. Robert O'Neill recommended it on his The Operator podcast. And if you want to hear a good ranter, the guy who I guess like we could say we all killed Osama bin Laden together, but that guy, I read his book No Easy Day when I was reading Redeployment. So I enjoy that connection to 6 years ago, before I realized I didn't actually have my freedom and I was a slave. So his ranting on The Operator is fucking prime ranting. It's also had recommended, because this was silenced then, a TV show called Soap from 1977. Looks fucking hilarious. I look forward to getting money so I can watch it on Amazon. It looks really fucking hilarious. The 70s, it's kind of a media era that's just left out of the picture. I wish there were better women ranters. God, I love a good woman ranter. I knew one. She was a Scottish woman and she would yell. And I was like, is she trying to cross the Atlantic with that voice? Jesus Christ. Just booming, but it's like soothing at the same time. There's not enough women ranters on YouTube. There's not. I want more stripper ranters. I need a stripper rant YouTube. Where the fuck is that? Obviously, all strip clubs, women need to start owning that business, because, yeah, right. Ooh. And I just would love for that, like, actual, like, not seedy, gross environment to exist anymore, because it shouldn't. It's 20 almost 3. Where's our like red carpet strip clubs? Where's our actual, like, people can behave themselves to have like fur, like fucking loungers, like in the 70s strip clubs? And that won't happen with the behavior that's currently happening at strip clubs all around the country. I know there's some great ones, okay? And you guys are superstars. But there's a whole nation, and it would be awesome for more people to really push that. and get like a burlesque sort of corporation back en route. That'd be awesome. Yeah, some like old American women's involvement. So I'm gonna have fucking a woman's space. I need a woman's state. I need a state I can go to and just be like, if I see one of them, like in a movie I just watched on Amazon, and it's just one more recommendation for the 70s, because I think this was 70. And it's like a bunch of beautiful Californian women who were over being enslaved in all the farm states they came from. So this is the 70s, California. And so they escape to the forest in Southern California, and they have a society where they get to kill men if they come to rape them. And that's the movie. Bill Maher is in it. I don't know the title, but you look that up in his 70s work, and it's an awesome film. I was like, fuck, this is a hilarious one. Also teaching me a lot about culture, where my grandmother and family came from. 2, 3, 4. Okay, guys. So, yeah, so 100 missiles knocked out their energy. And this is how we get things for free from and then we again paid more attention to Europe than our own people, because you're garbage if you do that. By the way, you're fucking garbage. You can go live with your Ukrainian whore and mother in Ukraine. In fact, just take them to Algeria and call it a summer vacation. So you fucking communists. So this is the part that silenced at my viewer, because he was specifically asking for Russia, Ukraine. And then I was like, oh yeah, I should talk about the fuck stuff what I was talking about. So Ukraine, just wheat for control. It's one of the easiest ways to control warfare. That's like an early warfare fact. If anybody else gave a fuck about their loved one, the men who bled in the desert these past when was I 12? These past 20 years. So you would care to know that the use of crops is the earliest and most long-held way to control the outcome, the beginning, the longevity of any warfare in American history. In world history. And then in American history with the wheat gangsters, this PhD cunt, not knowing anything about World War I, talking about World War I, they'll learn in good time. But you do have to, like, a lot of people don't want to debate or interrupt or tell people when they're wrong. Oh, please do. Oh God, please. If someone's wrong, or if you think someone's wrong, oh, please interrupt and correct them. This is not the time to be nice. Why would anybody think that's a quality right now? Nice for niceness sake? What the fuck? No one's nice for nice sake. You're a fucking liar. And I want people who are honest. Okay. So World War I is a really good example of mass starvations because of the use or the deprivation of crop. Simple fucking fact. World War II is a little different because now we have technology, right? Now we have such an advancement in technology where we're using a chemical, the methamphetamine, or whatever it was called at first. I don't know. It had a bunch of names because so many different people used it, and they say, what is this? And then you say, I feel burr. And so World War II is different in that way. And then the technology of, we have rubber, just those wheels finally were able to go through the winter. You had, what's another tech? Really just the ability to get some massive metal alloys made more quickly into things like cars and boats and submarines, and then you had Bluetooth technology, like Miss Hedy Lamarr, former child prostitute, slave. If I say prostitute or whore, I imply slave. Obviously, whores and prostitutes don't own their money. And if you didn't assume slave when I said that, that is your terrible prejudice. Okay? Because, if they had their money and it was a whole thing, healthcare clinic got checked, adults over 25, actually, because I don't want it to be close to call, and arguable to 23 in some states, I guess. I don't want it to be close to call, and I want there to be some goddamn respect for women in their fucking prime, And so, but if that was all set up and the women own their money, then there'd be healthcare specialists or therapists, actually, because that's what strippers really are to a lot of men, and they do it. They do it to men in positions of power, and so it's like extra gross because then they're a double slave. They're a slave as a therapist. They're a slave as a sex worker. A lot of strippers, little known fact, are like full on medical professionals, like doctors, like can diagnose and treat people with better success rates than any of you fucking cunts with an MD in the entire country. Please. So that's what I mean when I say whore and prostitute. I do mean slave. I just they're one and the same. And until these women own and operate their money, they're fucking slaves. So Bluetooth, and I'll let that technology bit sit for this point I'm making as we get into Ukraine. And so do you want to know what the tyrants overseas really hate about America and have ever since 1776? The fact that they don't get to steal your fucking technology or make money off of a new invention, a new chemical compound, a new alloy. That's what they really hated. And so when all of the free people and scientists wanting to come invent, all of the Norwegians making our tractors, whatever it was. So all of these great inventors, like everybody in America in the early 1900s was a basement inventor. You would just invent things. The woman who invented Bluetooth, Hedy Lamarr, the former child sex slave to the Hungarian, Saudi Arabian, North African, Turkish arms dealer, that child sex slave, she would also invent, she invented like a fanny pack for like tissues. So like it was like a pastime. And again, you have nice medicine at this time. You have pure opium, which has been a medicine for 10,000 plus fucking years. Pure opium, not just you poke it, it turns brown, and then that's culturally, historically what's been in use for medicine for so long across so many nations. You can imagine what it was like to see the Chinese women in America if you had never seen that kind of beauty and then wanted to control it. San Francisco, right? It's the opium wars of America is the San Francisco notion. So then you had pure cocaine. So just like farmers in South America, just you chew cocaine and you go farm some yams. So lead a llama up the Andes. What else was really popular? Cannabis, I guess. You had nice tobacco, quality alcohol, not corn syrup, fucking garbage, and then freedom. Yeah, so you had freedom, more so, and so people would invent all the time, just as pastime. And so all of these investors in 1776 who were just like like all the crowns and parliaments of Europe who was like, give me somebody to control. I don't know how to do anything, and I can only know to control somebody like the way my parents controlled me. They came scouting, absolutely, especially when Duluth, Minnesota hit the most millionaires per capita in the world in the late 1800s, and that wealth was built off of wheat. Okay, academics, are you with me with basic shit? Talking to that woman, Miss Jennifer Fraser Fisher, whatever her name was. Yeah. I mean it with love. And if you don't get that opinion, then, you know, you're like fucking over 40. You should stop being a child about it. So yeah, jealousy just raged from Europe. Just raged because they didn't hold that like wealth or like the promise for wealth. And then and then a bunch of terrorist attacks from European crowns. A bunch of the princesses from Europe came with tyrannous, decades-long intent to destroy your current, at the time, your future of your grandchildren and children. Likely, they were looking to escape the slavery they were in Europe, but what they did is they created more here. Yeah, that's that short fucking history. And that becomes such a fad, and then so much trafficking comes off of that because it's like, oh, I want a princess from Guam. I want a princess from Hawaii. Mommy, I want a princess from Japan. Mommy, I want a princess from Russia. Mommy, I want a princess from India. Mommy, I want a princess from Africa. Mommy, I want a princess from Morocco. And then so World War II happens. What's the lie they say? World War I was Archduke. Fuck. What's the lie they tell kids? One sec. One is the Archduke. Two was the Japanese came. Oh, they just came out of nowhere. I was like, what? Nobody saw them. Nobody saw them? Really? You're on an island in the middle of the ocean, and it's the blue fucking sky, and nobody saw 1,000 Japanese planes coming? I don't believe you, and you're a fucking liar. Watching the footage at the Bong Museum of World War II, it's that same epithet in myself where I say, you should everybody go to the Bong Museum and watch the World War II Japanese invasion video. It's like, oh, the propaganda, it just looks so much better in black and white. So, and you can just imagine when the Japanese women said no. When the Japanese women said no to these men who had, in their religious, secular views, a lot of the Italians, of course, a lot of the Irish, Germans, less so on the Germans' part, definitely more so on the Irish, Italian. Not to say there weren't terrible groups of German Americans. But you can imagine what it was like. You have the beautiful, beautiful early, like when women weren't so poisoned, American Japanese women, and then they start saying no, and oh my God, they use their Second Amendment right, or they use the right of self-defense, or like, no, you don't, I'm not your property, I'm not a slave. So they just know, like, oh no, I'm not a slave. And then you can imagine how that news went back in Japan, the land of the samurai and honor. And so that's my opinion. Sorry, that's not my opinion. That's my analysis, because I've studied this for fucking. When did I really get into World War II? When I was a kid. 15, 16, 16. So 16. Like 16 years. Yeah. Hello, good morning. So, yep. It would be great if other people would publish the truth and stop lying to the children. Because again, like, they can't, these people, younger people aren't interested in living a lie like you were, Grandma, like you were, Mom. I'm not interested in living a lie. I'm going to raise my children in as much accuracy as possible. Again, that's their defense. So yeah. So anyway, then fucking sell a bunch of newspapers for 4 years and clear a bunch of farmland as usual. And then Ukraine, this is actually how the war ended. So again, it's the physicist and somebody, built a computer. This is when Bluetooth was invented. But before that, somebody had built a computer. I think that maybe from the Imitation Game or whatever that movie is with Oh, let me look it up. It does matter. I always say the opposite of not the opposite, but a different word. And I can never remember what it's actually called because I'll always remember it, how I got it wrong. Okay, the Imitation Game. Okay, so it's hilarious. So the Brits, after Darwin, were like, oh, where is superior in knowledge? And so their Prussian counterparts, their cousins in Prussia, they're like, oh, it's funny. Because they have the technology and better standards for treating people. And so the earlier in Prussia, and then Victoria came in and was a little cunt about everything. And so because that academic stronghold had been their banker pretty much, when things started to be debated and come to common knowledge that interrupted that bank, the Crown of England shit its pants yet again. And this bitch, this Victorian cunt whore, Miss Victoria, was a psychopath, true and through. The notion is that she just slept with the painting of her husband looking at her and fulfilled his legacy throughout her life. I'm sure she had molested many a young boy, again, because she's a psychopath who didn't have any standards, but what was already set up for her, and whatever fucked up notions came to her mind, she was like, God told me to do it. And so she would actually anybody that wouldn't appear perfect to her what she was banking on, which was Madame Kai-Ching-shek, I think. Yeah. Or that empress from China. I don't actually remember if there was one before Madame Kai-Ching-shek. Or if it was really the women at all that would go to England for that trade, or for that diplomacy. But she didn't want anything to break appearances. And especially because, again, their bank is their academic, but then also their publications. And so how things appear. And so any children born with a deficiency, with a physical malfunction, she would ship them off. And I mean her grandchildren. So she would tell her daughter, your retarded son is going to go to Prussia, and we're going to do experiments on him to advance healthcare so that we can also be the leaders in healthcare in the future. And so she did that to dozens of children. And then in Prussia, they had more sympathy and this is one thing Jennifer said that was good. Miss Jennifer Fraser, PhD in Canadian things, I guess. I remember after I critiqued her, I was like, oh shit, she did say she's Canadian. That's why she doesn't get American concepts or value them at all. A lot of Canadians do, but just again, a lot of them don't. And so it's very much true. Like my mother and like Victoria and King Charles's mother. That was nice to read an article about how his mom, like quotes from Elizabeth just being like, "Get the fuck out of here. What are you?" to her son. Or just like, yeah. And Charles is also like quoted like in the 80s. And I guess he was like known for this, which makes it more sad. Like in an interview, this will be relevant, I promise. In an interview with some American news network, him and Diana are sitting next to each other right when they get engaged. And the interviewer says to him, "Oh, are you in love?" And I'm on tears. Like a confused expression because he doesn't want to lie. He loves America. He loves Americans. So does Diana. And he goes, "In love? I don't know what that is." And then he was like bullied for that by the feminists at the time. They're like, "This fucking douchebag." Like no context at all to his scenario. And so it's about what happens with these women, and it happens not just with whores, but it happens with well, you could just call Victoria like just a whore in a castle nobody's burned down yet, I guess. Because of the way they ultimately end up treating children. And I loved how Jennifer described this, and this is my experience, and this is historical too, is these women will leave the empathy part of their brain and go to cognition and speech, I think Jennifer said. And so they're just all talk, no feeling. At least Victoria's honest. Because then you have women who learn a speech of like, "Oh no, I love you," but everything is actually the opposite of true love. And so at least King Charles's mom, Miss fucking Elizabeth, at least she was honest with him, and like I can't love you, sort of, or I don't know, or maybe I don't know, fuck that bitch, she's dead anyway. So Victoria was very much that way, and so when those kids got to be around people that had empathy, they were actually able to really excel in advancing things for their new home that loved them and didn't torture them as children. And so just a bit of context there again, that it'd be great if for our greatest enemy, the reason we have this nation, because of houses that chose to say, "We're going to burn this one down," in the original 1776 reasoning. It'd be great if more people understood English. It's your greatest fucking enemy. Come on now. Bragging about America. You don't know shit about your greatest enemy? What's wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? So, we'll just fast forward back to World War II. And that communicating with like my audience, I don't know where they are at. So that's why, like, please leave a comment about like your perspective, because then I can see where you're at. And then that would help me kind of just talk about one thing and not get lost in myself. But oh, right, about the kids being able to develop faster. So the Germans had invented a computer. Thank you. The English had wished they invented a computer. And so while the English were starving in World War II, of course, the Germans are bombing the shit out of everything Americans shipping to them, while they're also hanging Black people in the South, and Italians en masse. ENMASSE. They're feeding the tip of the homeland they still haven't come off of. And so America is sending all these commodities to England and actually depriving. Nobody voted for it, and it was all via the newspaper that this war was agreed upon by the American military at the time and all of its armed forces. And so, sound familiar? And so, they bombed the food. And do you want what's crazy? England at any point in time could have made ally back with some old allies in North Africa, the Ivory Coast. They could have gone anywhere in Africa and they could have allied with somebody there and built up that production. They didn't want to because they wanted to feed this lie that they were in fact God, knowledge, we're number one, we have the knowledge. And then the skin thing actually wasn't that as much in Britain as it was America. They just had made so much money off that propaganda because England has such a diverse history with India and fucking Africa. Queen Charlotte was African. Ivory Coast, Ghana, Guinea was Queen Charlotte. You can look up Queen Charlotte, Black English Queen, the first Black English Queen. That might not be true either because there would have been a lot of Moorish princesses in royalty, but maybe Charlotte was the only queen. I don't know. So they could have done that and they chose not to. So they actually just let their people starve is what that was World War II. And they wanted it to be that show to get everybody to buy the newspapers. Like, oh my God, America suck another one. Buy all this paper quickly. Be involved. Feel good about yourself in your shitty life where you don't respect women and think they're your slaves. Woo. And so, I don't know on a smaller scale how food was used. I'm sure every horrible way. And so in the Imitation Game, it shows the scientists competing with the German computer that just allows more efficiency in communication. And then they just, womp. They just say, womp, France. And so I immediately am craving brie and a baguette and some grapes. I'm going to go get some after this. I do have an errand to run. I didn't want to because I don't want to see people anymore, but I do need chamomile tea. And now I will fulfill that want of brie and bread and grapes. Yummy. And so if you haven't seen it and you want to know more about the accuracy of World War II, watch The Imitation Game. Because this movie actually, it explicitly says, no, the war was waged, or the war was ended by these physicists, by these scientists, engineers. Because it was like, this is quoting the context of the movie. It was like, oh no, if you do everything too fast, the Germans will know that you have this machine and they'll come get it and then you'll have to redo it, which is also like then fucking have a bunch of people redoing it at the same time. And so obviously, like I said about intent. And so this one scientist who ends up being put on hormones to control his intelligence in the end invents the same computer and is able to give the comms to America to say, "Oh, America won! Good, yay! Don't let the farmers cry. They won't plant anything this season if they're crying." And so, yeah, fucking yeah. So the war actually ends, in my opinion, then. So the 60 sextillion, which I've talked to people about before, and they also found it notable, is that was a paper check written to purchase Ukraine. So Ukraine was a purchase of 60 SEXTILLION dollars. Okay, this is a country that Kara the Huntress and Andy Stumpf have on their podcast confirmed have been breeding grounds. American soldiers have just been making them breeding grounds. That was going on, and it's not going on as much anymore because now they're able to defend themselves. So, and that was like the most disappointing thing to hear casually said on that podcast. I'll compliment it a lot, the Cleared Hot podcast, but I will always critique that fucking garbage approach on both of their parts. How fucking disgusting for the reality of what was happening in our nation at the time. How truly, truly horrid. It's a disgusting episode. He did a bunch more and then has since become the person to cover American sex trafficking the most. In competition with Tim Ballard. Sorry, Tim, I just like this podcast more. I don't know if you, in fact, have covered more. That's a debate you two can have for the Pulitzer. So it was paid for immediately. It was made the breadbasket of Europe, produced 20% of the wheat for the world, became the stake in the ground that you could turn a dial to control your interests. And Russia-Ukraine war. That's where we are. Also, like, it's not that great of wheat. Like, it's shitty wheat, so it's, like, extra fucked up. But it'll be better. Egypt's doing more kamut, and you can always count on Egypt to make a grain back to fucking normal and healthy. I love